Hello, I'm very happy. I'll see you in an analytical video. Homo sapiens, or humans, appeared on Earth 300 millennia ago. That's equivalent to only 0.007% of the Earth's age. And it's very proud, when we only spend so much time to crawl to the top of the food chain, domination, every known form of life in the universe, and turn an object 12,742 kilometers in diameter. It becomes our home. And in the process, people have created a lot of things. Adjustment for your home. We're leveling mountains, filling seas, digging canals and rivers, forest felling, reservoir building house, the construction of cities and polluting many parts of the country and the air lay, creating countless new species. It also ended the evolution of many other species. It doesn't just touch the surface. We're drilling into the ground, building delivery systems underground at depths ranging from a few tens to hundreds of meters. The exploitation of resources at a depth of kilometers. In the opposite direction, we're releasing into the atmosphere to penetrate the ozone layer at an altitude of 154.10 kilometers, launch the satellite into orbit at a distance of more than 42,000 kilometers compared to the planet's surface, or taking the probe beyond the borders of the solar system. Say that to see that. The existence of the Temple of Civilization, it's made a very clear impact on the Earth. We can leave a legacy. The characteristic traces that any creature that ever existed before, we can do it. Have you ever wondered about the traces? The evidence about the existence of humans on Earth. How long can it last? Whether or not our species is extinct. Welcome to Search, the last legacy of human civilization. First, we have to talk a little bit about the disappearance of humans. There's a lot of ways to get people off the planet. A VA collided with Mother in an asteroid. A full-scale nuclear war. Or a virus of alien origin are things that, in theory, it could wipe out our species. So a VA colliding with or a nuclear war can be handy. Deleted most of it, the vestiges of human civilization that we're trying to preserve. So let's agree that the disappearance of man will take place out quickly and miraculously. It's like Thanos' snap. Version does not return an AI, or like what happened in the movie. The world has no escape. Alice in Wonderland. The goal is to structure the world intact. It's just that there's no human form. Actually, I still need a cameraman to stay, to give you the most realistic angles. Let's proceed. The first moment after nearly 8 billion people evaporated, about 1,000 planes at 10 kilometers, will instantly become 1,000 winged bombs. However, most commercial aircraft is switched to automatic driving mode right after takeoff. They'll only fall after they've run out of fuel. The good news is that there won't be any damage. Yeah, hey. Your father has held you for a long time. Under the ground and under the water, it's just as interesting. Car, motorcycle, train. Boats and submarines lost control. Puncture each other irregularly, quite like the eyes. Brought out a little. Most types of machines, the device is under human control, will quickly stop working. The few that can operate on their own will quickly. An accident caused a fire. Especially in refineries and petrochemicals, the weapons factories, explosives or flammable chemicals, power plants that use fossil fuels like coal, rock or natural gas will quickly stop working due to lack of fuel. Wind power plants, solar power, nuclear power, and especially hydropower. Under ideal conditions, it can run itself from a few weeks to a few years without any human intervention. However, the introduction of machinery, it's causing a lack of load on the global grid. It means that electricity is produced, but not consumed, and I don't know where to go. Missing load. That's why most power plants stop working very quickly. Nighttime on the Earth, post-Homo sapiens. Dark as money. The good news is that most of today's nuclear power plants, they all have mechanisms. Allow them to turn themselves off safely in case of lack of load, even if something goes wrong, causing the fuel rods in the reactor to melt. Solid structures made from reinforced steel, concrete or lead surrounding the reactors will prevent for steam and radioactive air spills into the environment. It's also about preventing the Earth from becoming a Triton, full-size version. Lack of electricity. All works depend on electricity, and the electrical equipment to operate will operate. The tunnels, the subway will soon become an aquarium. The absence of the king, lotus, and other types of pets will experience a harsh survival mode in an environment that they're never ready to face, except for the Tibetan clams, pit bull, or burrs. In the process, small, fragile species, the wild will become extinct. A few days since the humans disappeared, meat and vegetables, and fresh food start to drop in between. Fattening fly populations, rat, cockroach, mosquito. A few months after humans disappeared, the environment is becoming cleaner. Some wild animals, men down the mountain, transporting to the city. 15 months after humans disappeared, the International Space Station fell to Earth. The International Space orbiting Station, the Earth at an altitude of more than 400 kilometers. The atmospheric pressure here is very low. It still creates a certain resistance, gradually lowering the orbital altitude of the space station. This process is called orbital decay. Orbital decay. A few years after humans disappeared, the strong growth of trees, it makes cities look greener. The building work started to degrade due to not being maintained. 15 years after humans disappeared, satellites in low Earth orbit, climbing at an altitude of less than 2,000 kilometers through a strong orbital separation, and it starts to fall. Most of them will burn completely in gas. The Earth book, a little higher. The satellites can continue orbiting the Earth for thousands of years, or even millions of years. If they're in the upper reaches of the orbit, medium Earth, cats and high Earth orbit pigs, up to 42.164 kilometers maximum. The air pressure is too low to stop the movement of the satellites, so the regularity of the Earth's gravitational field, along with the noise created by the gravitational interaction between the Earth and billions to some point, will cause the orbits of these satellites to break apart. It sounds like artificial satellites are the oldest product of human civilization. Let's go back to the ground. A century after humans disappeared, the bare sky buildings began to collapse. The cities are almost covered in blue. Small and lower houses, less exposed to the effects of wind and earthquakes, will stay longer. It's a little moist though, rainwater, and the uncontrolled growth of vegetation, especially Leo wire species that will corrode the reinforcement, weakening the bearing beam mast system. They collapse after a few hundred years. In the polar regions, deserts, and dry areas, the house in particular, and construction works in general, they can survive longer. A few thousand years later, the only artificial structures that have survived his own form are buildings made of stone, with the most representative being the pyramids. At the Giza Pyramid, or the Neighborhood Pyramid, it was built about 4,600 years ago, with an initial height of about 146.6 meters, current height 138.5 meters. It's the world's tallest man-made structure for more than 3,800 years, until it was usurped by Lincoln Church. 160 meters high in 1311, it's made up of 2 or 3 million monolithic rocks, with a total weight of about 6 million tons. It's mostly limestone. It's no exaggeration to say that the Great Pyramid, it's a limestone mountain, it's weathered or destroyed by the weather. At an average rate of 1.5 millimeters per millennium. That's how we calculate time. To flatten the pharaoh's tomb falls to about 90.0005. With the passing of the ghetto of the Great Pyramid, most traces of existence of what's called human civilization, from building projects, graphs, and types of vehicles and machinery, the technology products, up to the types of substances, pollution that humans use to emit, environment, after 1 to a few hundred million years will be buried, transformed, and became something that the Polish geologist Jan called outside the ship's space exploration, like Voyager 1 and 2, if you're not so bad as to hit something and break apart the footprints that astronauts left on the moon. If it's not being bombarded by micrometeors, it can also exist for hundreds of millions of years. It's the ultimate legacy of humanity. It's not something that's just been analyzed or paralyzed. The one above is also not most of the things you can think of. Instead, they're periods, technology that you don't normally have, and the opportunity to see, or simply can't be seen with the naked eye. That's millions of tunnels, deep drilling holes and mines that we've left on the Earth's crust all along, hundreds of years ago. According to estimates, the length of all drilling holes on Earth is approximately the shortest distance from Earth to Mars. About 54 miles, 6 million kilometers, equivalent to 7 meters, bore for every person on Earth at the present time, based on stratigraphy. Using the caves that the prehistoric creatures historians have dug to determine the starting point of the Camry. 500 million years ago today, Janzalishevik for teeth. The deepest boreholes, like Kola's super deep borehole, up to 12.2 kilometers, or Z4 for the world's longest oil well with 12,376 meters. It may live with the Earth for billions of years. It's going to be an interesting discovery for ancient house biology in the future, about an advanced civilization that once existed, long before they